Okay, and then we'll come over here. Okay, Eden, when I say three, two, one, you're going to get in with the introduction, and today's topic is purpose, okay?
All right.
Okay, so here we go. Three, two, and.
Welcome to Philosophy and
Wait a
Religion
minute,
with
stop.
uh,
Eden,
uh, uh,
stop. Stop
okay.
right there. Okay, three, two, one, go ahead now.
Welcome to Philosophy and Religion, the greatest show on YouTube today with your host, Eden the Wise, and the greatest opinion in the universe, Aaron's
Aaron's
opinion.
Aaron's opinion. Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening to anyone watching us here on YouTube. Good evening, Dustin, in our virtual audience. We'll hear from him later. I'm Aaron Richmond. Aaron's opinion. He's Eden the Wise. Just Eden the Wise.
Just
Tonight's
you know.
topic, a critically important one that I want to spend the next hour really philosophizing with you about this because this is really important. It's one word, and I think it's important. Purpose. What, and here's the question, and I'm going to let you dive head first
Okay.
from your perspective in life, and I'm going to ask a series of questions, and then you're just going to kind of dig into the meal and just start eating. What,
Okay.
when you hear the word purpose, what is purpose? How has purpose fit into your life? How do you define purpose from what you know about religion and what you believe to be true and in your faith? So really, from the bottom of your heart, what is purpose? We have an hour. Go.
Oh man, this is a tough one. Well, not tough. It's complex because the way I see purpose, it's two definitions for me, and not from the dictionary or anything like that. But people have different purposes that they were meant to do, and then you have your ultimate purpose that cements your legacy. What was I here for this particular reason along the way? For me to have a purpose in life means you have to have a journey in life. Something has to lead you down the road and the pathways so that you can know what your purpose means in life. And it's something that's not given to you in my mind. It's something that you find out about yourself at some point in your life. People have plans to do this or plans to do that, but sometimes life can take us in a different direction. My purpose could be at 7 year old. I can say I'm going to be a firefighter. There's no doubt in my mind I'm going to be a firefighter, and yet I find myself being a police officer when I'm 21 or something like that, as an example. Now, what do I mean by different purposes versus the purpose for you? Well, sometimes you do things in life that helps others along the way. Sometimes we can do something for someone. I take an old lady's groceries and doors for her, or I cut somebody's lawn today, and I feel like, well, my purpose was to help this person or help that person. But what was my ultimate purpose? Why was I put here? Why was I given this life to live that's going to take me through XYZ in my life? That's a grandioso, that's a tough thing because, in our lives, we go through so much. It's a topsy turvy kind of thing going on. And, you know, uh, you just never know where life is going to take you. You never know what's going to happen in one's life, if that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense as always, Eden. I
Mhm.
guess where, or I guess not, I guess I know that one of the most interesting aspects of both philosophy and religion is basically to, well, one of the things that I want to pick your brain and dig further on
Okay.
is this whole concept of, a lot of times people, and I never thought of it as a child, obviously, because children don't need to think about it. But now that I actually, ironically, tomorrow I turn 32, so now I think about it every year more and more. Where, we ask a lot of questions in life, but the three or four main ones that all people at some level wonder
Mm.
about is, where was I before I was born? Why was I born? And what will happen when I die? And then to connect that to purpose, I would say, so what, if someone comes to you and they say, Eden, if they say, Pastor, what is the purpose of my being, of my soul? Not physical being, obviously, not organic physical being on
Right.
earth. But if someone
Uh-huh.
comes to you and
Mhm.
says, and a lot of times it's because the reason why we'd ask is because we have some intellectual concern about the
Mhm.
universe as a whole. What
Yeah.
is the purpose of our spirits, do you suppose?
Sometimes I think in my life, sometimes I think outside the box universally. I think of the word atonement, if you're familiar with that word.
I'm familiar,
Sometimes,
but let's define it for people who may have forgotten. What is
okay,
atonement?
it's something, making good on something you have done bad, or achieving a goal of something of higher level of where you were or where you are at. You're atoning for something. You're paying a price to do better of something else. So,
Okay.
when I define atonement, when I say, okay, let's think outside the bigger universal picture. Let's say in a past life, I've been a bad person. I killed people, I did bad. And let's go with the philosophy of reincarnation or religion of reincarnation. Sometimes one can say that my new purpose here is to make good on something I may have done there. Sometimes you could maybe say that you're on a proverbial merry-go-round. Life keeps going around in circles. And so what it's life is telling us is we're going to give you another chance in a similar situation but a different life. You're not going to know who you were, you're not going to know what you did, you're not going to know where you were born, but we're going to give you a new life and put you in the same exact scenario so that you can atone for what you did in a past life. So now your purpose was, let's say in the past life, you took an old lady's life from her. She was she was going home and you drove drunk and you killed her, and then at some point you lost. God says, okay, we want more chance to atone for that. So now be not to drink and drive. So we're gonna put you in a new situation. You're reborn somewhere crazy. You're not, I was born in America. Now I'm in where I have a choice to have a drink, and I say, nah, I'm good. Now I don't know of my past life, but at some point I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to drink. And so maybe my purpose then was to just not drink. So now someone that was going to die that night is now spared because I decided not to have a drink and drive that night. Now that's just, philosophical speaking, but
Sure.
if that's such a
Sure.
word, but, it, for me, a true purpose is something that is an end game, something I can leave the world with. I like to compare things to Jesus and everything.
Sure.
I tell people he had different purposes, but he had a specific purpose in mind at the end. But of course, he healed the sick, he cured the blind, he did a lot of things along the way. Those are purposes with an S. But his ultimate purpose was to sacrifice his life for the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful answer. We'll come back to that in a minute, but I wanted to
Okay.
touch on something that you said about past lives, this whole notion of past lives and reincarnation. So,
Mm-hmm.
as a Jewish person, we don't talk about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my personal belief of the matter is of course complicated by the fact that, as you know, I've spoken to many blind people all over the world. I've had the privilege
Mm-hmm.
to speak to many blind people all over the world. And as you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
blind people in developing countries, and in some of the countries in Asia, yet one of them in particular, and I'm not going to say it to single it out, but you know which one it is. One of the Asian countries
Yes.
has a very different belief system to the
Mhm.
concept of why there are blind people in the world, and
Very different.
they are starting to realize that it's not, perhaps not perfect or perhaps not accurate, but what it used to be was they used to say, well, you're blind because in a past life you committed crimes and you were a bad person then, so you're always a bad person now. And that really holds blind people back in those, in some of these
Hmm.
developing nations.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I need to be overly, but I need to be overly blunt when I tell you that certainly I'm definitely not saying, and I do not believe that if you're watching this video and you believe in reincarnation, I don't believe that you're saying that blind people are bad people and that we did bad things in past lives. No. What I'm saying is that in some parts of the world, especially in parts of the world where reincarnation is tremendously believed, they also
Hmm.
attach onto that the notion of criminality and
Yeah.
negativity and deviance in previous lives. What do you know about that one little fact, and what how do you digest that one little detail?
Well,
Sure.
biblically
Hmm.
speaking, a lot of people in the Bible believed when you were born with the disease, like leprosy, for example, which is very
Sure.
common in the Bible, or set blindness, they equated it to something a family member in the past did, or something you did that you deserved it. It wasn't like they treated it as, oh, woe is you. I hope you feel better. They steered away from people like that. They criticized them. They metastasized them. It was, oh, you have leprosy because you're cursed. You're against God, and He gave you this and that. Well, and you know, uh, some people may take that as, oh, well, that's why we should treat them differently. They must have done something. And that's not always the case. That's just how they viewed it. It was never confirmed by the Almighty. That's just how people construed that particular, when you had leprosy or something, it was like, oh no, yeah, they're cursed. You don't want to be around them. They would isolate them. They would put them, there's the us's and we're the they's. And, that's not, and even early when I said, maybe that's why people that's an example. I don't think a person is born blind because of what they did in their past life. I believe a lot of times that is your purpose. You were meant to be blind, but that's to help other blind people. That's to usher people to to confront their blindness. I'm gonna make you born blind, but guess what? I'm gonna give you knowledge. I'm gonna give you strength. I'm gonna give you tools to help other people that will also be blind. Now you're not gonna help everybody. You know, as good as this show is, we can't change the world, but we can
No, we
help
can't.
other. What I'm saying? We will help other people. See what I'm
Sure.
saying? Yeah.
Sure. And right there and later at the end tonight, you'll hear from him when I turn on his microphone. We have our friend, a great friend to all blind people, just like you and I, a great buddy
Mhm.
up there who's on mute, Dustin Lindberg. Let me tell you, he is a specialist in posting things on Facebook and sharing
Mhm.
good news. So if
Oh,
if
that's
there were,
good.
if there was ever a missionary for Aaron's opinion, the definition of missionary for Aaron's opinion would be Dustin Lindberg, because
Awesome.
nobody posts more than him and nobody's been more supportive. But that
Mhm.
is interesting. I kind of believe in past lives. I believe it a little, and I'm sure that it's possible. I know in my heart that it's possible, but who knows? And then do I believe in the reincarnation? Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think there's all sorts of people around the world throughout history who
Yeah.
have proven that they have been, and that's kind of, you know what, I believe it, but that's also their spiritual business. That's your
Yeah.
business. That's your route in life. That's your
Yes.
purpose.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
you
But
also
you,
talk. Go
mhm.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
To help your theory,
Sure.
And it's not like somebody woke up and learned the name reincarnation. It obviously came from somewhere.
Hmm.
Somebody, just like, I didn't wake up and just say, "Hey, Jesus is real." It came from somewhere. Obviously, in their heart of hearts, just like my heart of hearts, it started somewhere. There's some way somebody can prove of his existence, even if you can't see it. Just like I can't just make Jesus come out of my closet in the flesh and say, "Look, see, guys," but I can say no because of these things that have happened. I can prove that he has existed at some point and he did do what the Bible said he did. And somebody can come to me and say, well, Eden the Wise, I can prove to you in this book that there is a such thing as reincarnation. You know,
So, I mean,
that,
for sure. I mean, for all we know, we're, all three of us are pretty young people. None of us are 2,000 years old yet. So, for all we know, the Bible, and of course, I believe in both testaments. Obviously, they're true. But also, there could have been reincarnation. We just don't understand. Like we were digging into before with the Revelation stuff.
yes.
You know, who know? You know, so many crazy things probably happened thousands of years ago that the answer is only God knows, and I mean that literally and figuratively. Only God knows what the truth of it is. You know, so there could have been. You know, so you know a lot of times when when parents have a blind baby, or in my case, 32 years ago,
Mhm.
obviously it was very traumatic for my parents. They were
Yes.
sighted people, and they were
Mhm.
expecting to live a very different life than the
Yeah.
life that we ended up living. So that, in essence, is a perpetual trauma that we have to move through as we move through our spiritual journey.
Of course. Of course.
But you know, what have you ever spoken to family members, and this is something that has come up on other channels too that I like, where they say, you know, the family members don't want a blind or a disabled family member in the family, and they can't do that. You know, how do you help a family, or how do you help people kind of understand that blind person is just sort of the purpose of the family in a philosophical sense? What do you think about? How do you counsel people about that when they say, "Oh, those things"?
Uh, there's different ways you can do it, but they have to kind of agree to the journey. I actually had a family member, wasn't blood family, but she kind of was a little different towards me because of that. She didn't want me going to the fancy restaurants with her. But the way I would educate them is I would tell them put a blindfold on for a day. You know, put this blindfold on and let's see how long you can go with it. Let's see how long before you start to get irritated that you have to use your hands, you have to use your cane, you have to decide, how many times I'm going to bump into this before I learn how to utilize this cane. So there's lots of ways I could educate someone. There's lots of ways I can say, what if you were one of us kind of deal. Um, because you have to relearn life. To
Hmm.
be blind, you can't just, as we know, you can't just walk out the door without your cane. You have to utilize certain things to get around. So I would kind of put them down that road so they can get an idea of how I feel, what I'm going through, the frustrations that might be going through their mind. Oh, can I take this off yet? No, you can't. It's forever. Until there's a cure, you have to leave that thing on. You know,
Right,
or
right.
something to that effect. You know.
Hmm. Hmm. Sure,
So,
sure. Absolutely. I think educating people is very important. Although we need to be careful. I agree with how you said it, but we also have to be careful not to encourage sighted people to adapt blindness skills without proper training. This was a
no,
huge right.
definitely.
No. I know you didn't. You aren't encouraging that. I know you aren't. But this was a huge problem a few years ago. What was it where there was some, and I guess this is my chance to plug the fact that doing challenges on YouTube and TikTok this is exactly why it's not appropriate to do challenges. There was some sort of challenge on TikTok that was just like that, Eden, where they said you have to wear a blindfold all day and go throughout your whole day, and people were getting hurt, sighted people were getting
Mm-hmm.
hurt, and then what comes out of that is then sighted people think that blind people get hurt. So then it, it,
Yeah,
it breeds misconception. It breeds misunderstanding. You
we
didn't mean it. You didn't mean
we
it
should have
that
put
way.
that in our.
Wait. What?
No,
What should
I'm
we
saying we
put in
should
our
have put that
thing?
in our last episode. I'm saying we should have put that in our last episode. That TikTok segment. We were talking about social media.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well. See, that's what. See, but that's why we're having the discussion, because this is all a continuation of series. Meaning, eventually, this is all a series. This is a
Yeah.
playlist, on the
Mm-hmm.
channel, and a playlist for a
Sure is.
reason, because it's like a book that we'll be able to unfold together and walk through the chapters. So that's kind of that's the beauty of this art of
Yes.
our of conversation. But I have a real problem, and I guess we're getting back to social media. I have a real disgruntlement. I really do not
Mhm.
agree with doing silly challenges that are either
Yes.
physically hurtful or emotionally hurtful to a community, you know? But what do you think about that? I'm sure you are in agreement, but what do you think about avoiding those? Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. But what it does is, and it's not just TikTok, social media, TikTok, politics, it really exposes the ignorance of man. Not
It
all
does.
man. It exposes that part of people that can look at something and say, I'm gonna do that. It speaks to mental health, which we'll maybe touch into that later, but it also speaks to influence, which influence is a bad thing. Influence is a bad word
Mm-hmm.
because when you're influenced to something, it 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 can, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can lead to something better, but a lot of times it leads to things worse. And when someone can look at something like that on TikTok and say that's a good idea, and there's so many videos out there, it's countless thousands and thousands of crazy videos
Mm-hmm.
that you look at and
Mm-hmm.
say, wow, what drove you to do that? What made you think that that was a good idea? Why did you do that? And it just boggles the mind for me. It
It
just
really,
boggles
it
the
really,
mind.
it really scares me. I'm being serious. It really is scary because I see. I mean, like I said, tomorrow I turn 32 on the second, and I
Mm-hmm.
see, I'm seeing people, men, younger than me, 10 years younger than me, making these horrible, horrible decisions in life
Yeah,
that and I watch various TV shows about people who make poor choices, commit crimes, and then you see them on the various TV shows. They go up to the judge, and then they're all surprised when the judge says, "Oh, why don't you go spend 25 of the next years of your life locked up?"
yeah,
And
oh
then
yeah.
the person, and then the 20-year-old's all confused. Well, that really is truly terrifying to me. And what I mean by that is I'm deeply concerned that so many people younger than me and my age and older are making
Mm-hmm.
these, within the 30-second or 1 minute period, are making poor choices that are ruining their life literally 30 seconds. You can ruin your life for the
Yeah,
next 30 years with 30 seconds. And they don't get it. And that's a serious
yes,
problem. Serious problem. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's a
mean, it was
major
crazy. I was
major
watching
issue. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Go
mhm.
ahead.
No, I was getting an example. I was watching a court show. He does court cases on YouTube. Shout out to Recovery Addict. But we were waiting on the verdict, and he was putting on videos, just random police chases. And one particular one he put on was, and this happened 10, 11 days ago in Colorado. A guy got pulled over for what, after they chased him or whatever. I guess he had drugs in his car, and they handcuff him and put him in a police officer's car. Well, he manages to get the cuffs in front of him, climb to the front seat, and he
Yeah.
steals that car.
I think I've seen videos like that. I don't know if I've seen that one, but
Okay,
that
okay.
that does happen a lot. Yeah. Uh-huh. And then
Yes, and he lost his life in the chase. At some point,
oh yeah.
the video ends with the chief that was chasing. She runs out of gas, but further up the road, he runs into a semi, flips it
Ugh.
over. That driver survived, but he lost his life. And I thought to myself, I said, if he had just not did that, he would be alive today. But it was mind boggling because we were kind of going over the commentary, and it doesn't in the video. It doesn't say he lost his life. The guy just found out that yeah, he lost his life. But the
Mm.
cop is oblivious. She has no idea that he's dead. She's like, oh no, he's stable. Uh, have somebody follow him to the hospital, but they were taking him to the morgue. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was like the decisions we make it off. Little did he know, miles down the road, that his consequences was he was going to lose his life. And sometimes when we do things, we have to keep that in mind. Every cause has an effect, and sometimes because you did this, it could even take your life. Yeah, we go to jail, but sometimes it can cost you even your own life.
Yeah. Yeah. and all that person probably needed to do was needed to stop, and then he would have gone to jail. But I don't know. In that case, the jail was better than, well, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess I would ask you. I guess I
Mm.
would ask you. So, did God plan that day for him? I mean, philosophically, was that the end of his purpose? Was he at the end of his
Yeah,
line there?
yeah. I think his purpose, because sometimes purpose can be negative. I believe in his life, he because they found drugs. I
Hmm.
believe at some point in the beginning of his life, he had a choice. Either you stop doing the drugs, or it can lead down a path you don't want. Sometimes you have to make that decision. Otherwise, your purpose serves someone else. Sometimes when you start to do negative, now your purpose is an example. How you turn purpose in life into an example in life that others should not do what you did. Because when you do things like him, you can lose your life. So, purpose can go one of two ways. Sometimes your purpose in life is to save others, and sometimes your purpose is in life is to be an example to others what not to do, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just interesting to think about that. Why people, struggle with making choices. There's always, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a white and black thinker. White, cold, hot,
Mm-hmm.
cold. There's a right choice and a wrong choice, and in life we all make wrong choices. But it
Yeah,
seems like some people make choices that are really, 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 really wrong. You
yeah,
know, there,
yeah,
there's a huge massive spectrum of decisions.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you really think about it theologically, how does I would wonder, I would imagine in my imagination, how does what does God think of of all the decisions in the chain of decisions? What does God say about that, if anything? What
Yeah.
do you think?
I don't think he would judge us as harshly, because let's also keep in mind this aspect. Some people were born unfortunately to others. There's lots of kids that were abused as children, lots of kids that were born around drugs. Sometimes it's about your upbringing. If we talk about the driver that lost his life, let's say that his parents were on drugs, and he started drugs at a young age, and it just affected him for his life, and then he started to lose control of his life because not something he may have possibly did, but just the way he was brought up in life with his parents. You see what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah, we don't know about the family history, and in many cases, I mean, you could be right. Who
Yeah.
knows? But also you could be wrong. It might also be.
You said what?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying is you could be right or you could be wrong. Hopefully, what I would hope, I guess the less bad thing is that hopefully that man's parents were perfectly normal and never
Yeah.
used drugs at all and begged him 20 or 30 times, please don't do that. And probably maybe he didn't listen to them.
Yeah.
Or maybe on a darker side, maybe you're right, maybe the whole family was messed up. I don't know. It's not my place. It's not my thing to know. But who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually in many cases
Yeah. We don't know.
people make very poor choices irrespective of the good choices that their other family members make. So it just
Mm-hmm.
depends. I'm not too
It does.
judgmental about that. Actually, who knows? But I don't know. That's
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead. Hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. You never know, and sometimes that works in reverse. We know in the Bible that there's bad people that grew up in bad situations that became heroes that were good. Sometimes that works in reverse. Sometimes you can be in a bad situation and it makes the best out of you and creates a purpose in life in of itself, because you say, well, I'm not going to let that be me. I'm going to make a difference in my life. I'm not going to be in that environment that I grew up in. So sometimes that purpose works in reverse and you do what's right in the face of what's wrong.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely the case. Yeah. In many cases. And then I mean another thing to talk about purpose is and I've watched a lot of videos about this very thing that's really, as I've mentioned before, highly concerning too, is this whole notion of people wanting to basically upload their consciousness to the cloud. And I know I've talked about it with you before
Mm-hmm.
in passing. I don't specifically remember the context, but I know we've had the discussion about that. So then I guess would there be intellectually, would there be any purpose for us as human beings to invest the time and energy to build more and more technology to extend our lives? I don't mean it from a theological perspective. Would there
Mhm.
be any purpose, any real organic concrete purpose in us trying to develop AI technology? What do you think?
I believe in, yes, I do. If we go scientifically speaking,
Hmm.
let's go down that road. Sometimes your purpose is to save lives, and by saving a life, it would take technology. We see it in medicines, we see it today in our AI systems. Um, you have your pros and cons when it comes to robotics and AI, but I don't rule it out as far as a purpose. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? You never know who's going to invent a machine, which, and they have. I'm not going to go too dabble down, but they have technology now that can predetermine your illnesses. They have technology that can go in your body and say, this is wrong and this might cause cancer. They have that now today. So,
Hmm.
I don't rule out AI technology, robotics, and computers and things of that nature. Sometimes that helps a lot when it comes to uh, fulfilling one's purpose in life. If a
Hmm.
scientist said, if I built this machine, it could cure blindness. Who knows? If I built this machine, it could make you taller. If I built this machine, it could add 30 years to your life. I don't rule that out, but even then, that is a form of a purpose for someone,
Okay,
you know.
except if you talk to Aaron's opinion, I don't need to cure my blindness. I don't need to be taller, and I don't need an extra 30 years in life. The entire lifetime that I'll probably make it until I'm 100 years old. I'm not making it till 130, man. So no, all of your products that you just marketed, either you need to come up with other products, or you aren't a good marketer. You might be a great pastor, but
Yeah.
marketing, nope, not for you. So see,
No.
I completely disagree with you because that is a complete this is really cool stuff, really fascinating. What you
Mm-hmm.
just said is a complete destruction of purpose because I deeply believe, and on top of me loving your opinion that you have about it, it's so good to think of it that way. The way you think of that though completely in my mind completely derails
Yeah.
the concept of God, that God knew
Yeah.
better than all of us human beings.
Yeah.
And that's just what I think. Now, I guess the question is, you're more open to it than I thought you would be. Then
Mm-hmm.
how do parents know when to use technology to do these things with medicine, where we're starting
Well,
to be able to
well,
under like when
yeah.
do we play God? Is the philosophical
Well,
question.
the beautiful thing about that is you cannot play God. You can invent something, but if God says it's time for you to go, there's nothing you can do.
Hmm.
They have people frozen in ice caps thinking that they're gonna wake up in 100 years, and I'm
That by
like,
the way,
no,
that
that's
really by the way that really bothers me.
yeah,
That really that I disagree with that. But yes, go ahead. Hmm.
yeah, but I do too. But I say, you know, having a purpose in life and God's purpose for you are not the same. You might have a purpose, but God may have a different purpose. And regardless of what we try to do in our lives, we cannot outdo God. You know what I'm
No.
saying? If I built a machine
Hmm.
tomorrow and I said, Aaron, if you step in this machine, you're going to get 100 more years of your life. Now,
Oh
I can say
God.
that all I want, but let's say Aaron is on his way up here, gets into a car wreck and dies, and he didn't get a chance to get in that machine. Well, obviously, God had a purpose for you and said, no, no, no. I said you were going to die and you're going to die. You know what I'm saying? So even if I could add 100 years to your life, if he says no, it's no. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing I can
Hmm.
do. Because if that was the case in 2023, we would have that technology if that was the case. And I believe that a lot of times we haven't invented that because God had maybe different plans for us. Because it's not as if we cannot build that. We have things, crazy things that we have invented. We can flex our muscles with technology. Say, look at what man has built that we can do. But the
Right.
one thing we have not been able to do so far is stop God's plans. You know,
Amen.
there's
Amen.
no
Absolutely.
computer in the world smart enough to even find where heaven is. There's not a computer an invention, a pill, medicine. There's nothing that has been invented in 2023. And we're in
Hmm.
2023. That's a long time into the future. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at the future. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Look at what they had in the 17 and 1600s, 1500s Bible days. Look at where we are now. And man has yet to find the immortality technology pill. See what I'm saying? So we cannot outdo God. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
As big as we can build it, he can look down and say, well, all of this came from me anyway. So I'm not going to allow you to even think of that kind of technology in 2023. Even if you have the blueprints, it almost will never work out.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just very concerning. I mean, again, I mean, I can't judge. The thing is, I can't pass a judgment on it, but I watched that documentary and it seems like you did too, or you watched things that were similar. Did you watch the documentary with the Thai family, with the Thai family who was the father was the doctor, and they
Mhm.
had a little toddler who passed away, and then he ordered her body to be like frozen in time until they have, I don't even know how to explain it, until they discover a cure for her. Do you remember that one?
No, actually, I haven't seen that. I've heard other scientists talk about like presidents doing that and rich people doing that.
Ooh, ooh. I mean, I'm not getting every ingredient. I'm not putting the whole meal together. But there
Gotcha.
was this Thai family, and they wanted and it's all on Netflix. That's where I got this information from. So the
Okay,
Thai
I'm definitely
father,
check it out. Mhm.
yeah, and he became fast. He was a scientist or doctor or engineer. Well, all doctors are really engineers, but something like that. And
Yeah.
he froze. He had a pet goldfish, like
Hmm.
a big one, like not a little one, but a large kind of koi like fish. And he froze it because he wanted to like fix its. I don't know. He wanted to solve its health problem, and then he figured out the cure to the
Yes.
goldfish, and then he woke it up. So then he kind of manifested that concept onto this little girl. And in the documentary, you feel so sad. In a way, you feel so sad for the little girl. But then I also think, well, her life, God wanted her to be up in heaven after 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
I strongly believe that that was that little girl's purpose, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have a really hard time. How do I even understand? How do I even, I guess I have a hard time understanding it, how someone could disrupt God's purpose so much. But,
Yeah.
however, I'm not Thai, and the belief systems and the way that Thai people feel about the heavens and God is
Hmm.
completely different from the way we do. So, for all we know, it could be perfectly normal for Thai people to believe that. Although they show in the documentary that there was news articles and Thai people thought it was a little unusual. So I don't think, I'm not saying that it's the norm, but I don't know. That whole playing God thing, it just kind of creeps me out. And it's just,
That's
in
true.
my opinion, it's just kind of wrong. It's just not going to work. But what do you say to that?
I had saw something on YouTube.
Hmm.
It was also from someone else, somewhere else. They have claimed that there's a machine out there that you can put your conscience in it. You
Right.
put your soul and your conscience in it, and therefore you can live through this machine or whatever. Um, but my philosophy or my thoughts to that is, let's say, just let's play devil's advocate. Let's say you invented a machine that can make you live whatever, however. That is the purpose of destruction. That is why revelation exists. That's why if we have a new revelation or something happens, I do believe God can snap his fingers and destroy the world, and start all over anyway. And there's nothing you can do about that. Regardless of how you feel, what you can do, those who believe in God, every religion speaks on end time, the end
Hmm.
of the world, so to
Hmm.
speak. So even if we were able to play God for in our minds, they're not playing gods in reality, but they feel they are. In their minds, I outdid God. I created a new heaven. I created all these things, but at the same time, uh, you also have to keep in mind that he is the end game. If he destroys the world, let's say he destroys the earth, well, what good was all that technology if the whole world is gone? What good was that if at some point he says, okay, I'm going to hit the reset button and we're going to start mankind all over again, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I can tell you that my consciousness, I'm such a character that if someone came to me and said, I want to put your consciousness in a computer, I would say absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, that number one, no, it's wrong. Number two, I don't want to break your computer because my consciousness is so conscious that it would
Yeah.
that it would
Could
that it
you
would
imagine
over
Eric's
that it would
opinion is not
overload that my consciousness it would overload the system for sure.
I think I would too. I actually think I would probably destroy the world in and of itself. I would tap into all the machines and then, it was like, you think Y2K was bad? Oh, here we go. Wow, the whole world is gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's pause for a moment right here.
Okay.
Let's actually bring in our good friend. I want to turn on his microphone. Dustin has asked me very nicely if he can join our conversation. I think he's really getting a lot out of it. Here, let's
Okay.
let's see. Let me see something here. Let's bring in our good friend here. Oh, okay. Okay, Dustin, are you there?
Yes.
Excellent.
I have a little bit a different philosophy than you guys is.
Go dig in.
Like
go.
when it comes to the computer programming thing, like I believe that when they upload your soul to the computer, they're not really uploading your real soul. It's like they're just making a clone of it.
Well, I don't want that either. I don't want a clone guy of me.
So you know how Star Wars, how the clone army, how Sidious made a clone army, and he put the same personality in each person.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, if you watch the Disney Plus version, how at the end, how every clone had the same personality, but once they're done in the battle and Sidious kind of threw them to the trash, they started to develop their own personality based off the personality that they were programmed with.
Yeah.
So at the end, every clone got their own personality, but they still had the same interests and likes because they all had the same basic clone personality. So imagine like hundreds of people that look like you, Eric, and believe the same things as you, but at the end, one person's voice might be a little louder pitch, or one person might die quicker because they died in battle quicker, or one might have a different battle experience than your other clone, and then their main personalities will tweak off that personality. So when they upload yours up to the machine, your soul still goes to heaven, in my opinion, but they just have like a clone of your soul, like where another soul can develop from that clone, like. So then after that, when that clone dies, you pretty much have like two versions of you.
Yeah.
But Dustin, thank you. That's fine, Dustin. But all of what you've said is true, and it's a bad idea.
Well, look,
but I seen it as a good idea because
that's fine, Dustin. How do you think?
If I had a clone of myself, I'll definitely send the smarter version of myself to math class.
Okay.
Well, that's really interesting, Dustin. So let's fold back. Let's go back a couple pages. I can tell that you're really loving the discussion. I mean, what other inputs do you want to make on everything that we've covered so far? Go ahead.
And then to me, how like I see the world is like. See, I don't believe in so much reincarnation thing. I believe that after you die, I believe that Earth is like a simulation. Is like I believe like God's actually a very smart being, and we like underestimate him. I feel like God has us like in a simulation, and after we die, we kind of leave the simulation, and because like we passed his test. I feel like we're like the Matrix thing, because like the world sometimes goes like perfect, and then we hit a glitch and this whole Ukraine thing happens. And then after Putin disappears, the world goes into peace again. It's like it's no like I feel like sometimes we're like in this Matrix thing, and God's up there pushing buttons to see what happens.
Well, can I interject just a little bit? Go
ahead.
I still believe in God and in the Bible, but I do believe we are in a Matrix-like system. I do believe that he doesn't play sides. You know what I'm saying? He puts us in a test like system to say, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to put these things in front of you and see if you'll make those decisions. Now, you know, that's why I tell my friends in work, I'm not a political guy. I don't believe in one side or the other because since I've been born here in this world, no politician has changed the world for me. Nobody. And so I've developed this in my mind, the good guy, bad guy syndrome. Now, if you know the Matrix, you would know that Neo was never really meant to be the one. He was there to distract people to make them feel as if, hey, if we put our faith in Neo, he's gonna save us from the Matrix. He's gonna take us out of here. But what the Matrix was both sides of the coin. It was saying if you're on heads or if you're on tails, you're in the Matrix. You know, even in the Nebuchadnezzar, you're still in the Matrix. You're just in this part of the Matrix. There is no in and out. You're in the Matrix. Neo was designed to say, okay, I'm going to make it seem as if, you know, if you go with the Oracle versus the Architect in the movie, most people would say to you who broke the movie down, and it's on YouTube as well, the Oracle was never the good guy. She was never the good or bad guy, and neither was the Architect. They just had different purposes in the Matrix. One believed in everybody should be robots. We should balance the equation. There should be balance in our system, and the Oracle believed that it should be unbalanced. People should have choices. People should be able to say and do what they want. So I'm going to give one set of people, I'm going to teach them purpose, and the other guy is going to teach them absolutely no purpose. You don't have a purpose. This is your program. This is what you're supposed to do in life. This is what you're supposed to be in life. And the other person's going to say, no, that's not right. You can do whatever you want in life, but you're still going to be a part of the same system either way, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, I get you. It's just a different. This is a different thing. I picture similar.
Yeah,
I get your point.
I got you. Yeah, and with the cloning thing, I do believe the soul goes to heaven. And with the cloning thing, what you're doing is you're taking a part of their brain and you're putting it as a program. So everything Edwin would do, and that's what good with AI is good at doing that. It calculates what I'm going to do based off of who I am. It takes my brain waves and it says, well, kind of guy. So he loves Italian food. He likes cheese. So in this machine, I'm always going to say, man, I sure wish I had something with cheese on it. It's going to do things that my brain normally would do based off the patterns that it measured in my brainwave. But that's just how I feel about it. It's just, life in general, the matrix-like system, the good versus bad. If you vote for me, I'm going to change the world. No. If you vote for me, I'm going to change the world. And, that was the difference between Agent Smith and Neo. Agent Smith was saying, hey, guys, we need to get out of this system. Neo was saying, hey, we need to save ourselves from this system, But they both had a purpose of what the Matrix pretty much kind of forced them to do. But go ahead.
And I do believe in this matrices and simulation theory, Dustin. No, I'm in agreement with you that that's at play. But what I'm also saying is I kind of believe that if we are living in a simulation, which I do think we are, by the way, I'm not discounting that theory. I agree with you, Dustin. We are probably living in some sort of simulation, okay? But I strongly believe that simulation was created by God or something. Again, that's another good question. If Eden and Dustin, since both of you are just two amazing co-hosts, if Eden or Dustin, if we are living in a simulation, then what is the purpose of reality then? If we're being simulated, which I have my suspicions that we may be, then what is reality to you guys?
To me,
go ahead, Dustin.
Go ahead. I let Dustin go first. Go ahead.
To me, reality is sometimes I went to college, so I have a different. I took my second degree is in philosophy, so I read a lot of philosophy.
Oh,
Like
good.
I mostly did Greek. So like what I read from all these philosophers is like we're in life just to be a good person and to prove ourselves. Because the Greeks believed if you're a good person and you died, in the afterlife you got rewards like endless food, you got to see your family, and you never have to be hungry again. And your whole goal in life was to prove to be a good father, to be a good son, good to your community, help your community advance, help your community prosper, and and put your community first. Like your whole goal in life was to be a good person. And if like you were a good person and you sacrifice your life for the community down in the underworld or the afterlife or whatever you want to call it, you get endless pleasure. It's not like the most Christian perspective, but a lot of the like ancient Egyptian philosophers, a lot of the ancient Greek philosophers, even ancient Chinese, Indian, all these philosophers, they had a different kind of afterlife, but their whole goal is to teach you how to be a good person.
That's good.
So I can keep talking. Then I'll let him.
Oh no, I was just saying that's good. No,
that's good.
Being a good person. God, if you can teach one more person to be a good person, that's a lot of good people.
Yeah. And I've been in retail for the last 7 years of my life, and you see some very nasty people.
I didn't know. Justin, you didn't tell me it was about your philosophy degree. You were just complaining about the people. Why didn't you say it was philosophy?
because I'm just telling you, because I'm going to say I never really used my philosophy part, because don't go to college for that, because you cannot find a job.
It sounds like you're using it because you know what you're talking about. But
because a lot of these ancient scholars are like dead thousands of years ago. They deal with the same grumpy people that I deal right now in customer service work.
You know what, Dustin? I really hate to tell you this. You have earned a permanent spot as the co-host of PAR. You're on the series permanently now. No, you don't have a chance. That comment that you just made was so good that you won the job. I gotta have, because you know what? I've never thought of that before. And if you keep on teaching me, well, that's something that me and Eden and all of our friends around the universe, we're gonna love talking to you. Oh, Dustin, what a mistake you just made. Why did you turn on your microphone? You just earned a permanent spot on the panel here for the philosophy department. That's so good. That's great, man. Yeah. So Dustin, what about these ancient people? Would they scoff at our lives today, or do you think they would just say, well, that's people? Or what do you think? Because I think if I went back in time, I would love it, because I love speaking French and all that, But really, the Romans are just the same as us. They're people. They're great people, assholes, weirdos, great people, people that cry, people that work hard. People have really, for the last 2,000 years, people have been almost the same. We've changed. Actually, we haven't really made much change. Most of us have been pretty destructive people for the past 2,000 years. So what do you think those ancient people would say about you or I? What do you think, Dustin? And then Eden. Or maybe Eden, because I think he muted.
Okay. I hope he didn't mute, because if he did, he can't unmute.
No, I can. Hold on.
Okay.
You.
Okay, sorry. I just
no
didn't want you to hear my stove going off.
Stove? No. Okay, no. The philosophers had stoves back then, I'm sure. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens is, like, at least I like more the Greek philosophy, because back then they didn't see us as dumb, useless, blind people like a lot of sighted people see us. Back then, the blind person was the oracle, the prophecy person, because a lot of the Greeks believe like we don't have no sight because our vision loss is because we're not supposed to see, because we're supposed to see the future from the gods.
Yes.
Or so like something like I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of people believe the Oracle of Delphi, she was blind or some kind of disability. Because there's a lot of writings that say sometimes the lady couldn't see, and she had helpers guide her out to where the people who talk to the prophecies were, and she would have to like feel her way around. So like a lot of people don't know she's blind, was blind, because no one really documented it. But a lot of the ancient stories, we don't know if they're true or not, said that she had to feel her way around to get places, and she would have to breathe in the smoke to see because she couldn't see it. So the smoke helped her see the future because the gods would put it in her head. So I'm really fascinated with the Greek stuff because the Greek stuff doesn't make the blind and visually impaired people look bad. The Greeks actually believed that blind and visually impairedness had a purpose. It wasn't just like you're cursed and you're useless. They actually believed that we were a blessing and we had a purpose. But a lot of the Romans, the Catholics, and so that they saw us as like a problem because those people that created those religions, they were fully sighted. They had to, because like the Romans during the Catholic times, if like you were disabled, they pretty much put you out in nature and let nature kill you. So,
100%
like,
right. You're right,
so,
Dustin.
and even my friend Paul, he is 65 years old and he lives in Champlain. And he told me when he graduated from high school, they put people in a special home just for disabled people. Like he said, like after you graduated high school, they didn't put disabled people in like a regular home because they believed that disabled people, normal people couldn't live together. So this is like in the 60s, and they would put you like in downtown here, like 2 blocks away from me, there used to be like a building where they just put disabled people in people's wheelchairs, blindness, visually impairedness. They would live in this one giant building, and they just expected you to sit there all day and just knit, listen to music, and just bum around. But after the protests in the 60s, he said, that's when they actually said, okay, we have to do something with these people. These people have rights. So there's like a weird, like hundreds of 1,000 years, like between the Greeks and between the American 60s, where disabled people were seen as flawed human beings, because it all started with the Romans, because they saw disabled people like us as trash. And they said, well, we'll put them in the woods and hope they die because we don't want to be responsible for them. And then now like we're finally getting back to like the Greek times where like the disabled people, that we can be kept Christians and people in society without being judged, banished, and put in the woods.
You're right.
So I don't want to go back in time because me as a disabled person, I know like in a lot of Christian society, it would be like, the devil, let's fork him. Or, oh, he's cursed, burn him at the stake. Or he's a witch. The only time I would go back is like the Greek times or the Egyptian times when everyone believed I had magical powers. Because at least I know I would survive.
Okay, y'all can hear me. Okay,
voila.
I figured something out. Okay.
Okay, there you go. I was trying to. Yeah. You don't resist the God guy sitting behind the mic. I was pushing that button.
Yeah.
Stop! Don't fight me. I'm working with you. Working on it here.
I have no idea how to again.
Okay. So basically, what Dustin said, I think you heard most of what he said, which was that back a long time ago, and now we need to actually start bringing this kind of winding down the conversation. We've actually been talking for an hour. But what this all comes down to is that Dustin, you're going to be a tremendous asset to me. You're going to be a tremendous gift here to the Aaron's Opinion family here, man. But you're very right that throughout different periods of history, different perceptions of disability were thought. You know, there were times when they would think various things and not. But Dustin, that's really, really, really interesting and very accurate information. So I think we're going to expand. I think we're going to expand on that next week when you actually hear this, because I'm going to do some digging and learning about, you've touched me so much. I'm going to learn about what ancient Greeks really thought about people with disability and the perception. In fact, topic 4, perception of disability, a historical lens.
But just remember, blind disabled people were treated different than someone missing limbs.
Understood, but we'll cover missing limbs. Yeah. Why do you want me to cover a missing limb next time? We'll cover it.
Based on all my research, there's a lot of people who are missing limbs and stuff were treated like look at the Hunchback story.
That's right. And do you know the roots behind that story, the disturbing story behind the Hunchback of Notre Dame? That's a very disturbing story. I know the 300 movie made a documentary of that. Like he helped the Persians get around the Spartans, but I don't know was the based off that Hunchback or another one. I don't
the issue, there's so much hunchbacks in like ancient series that's hard to remember which hunchback belongs to which story.
Yeah,
Well, I remember the hunchback belongs to the hunchback. If that
yeah,
helps you.
yeah. And we touched on that earlier when I was saying in the Bible times you were treated differently
Right.
when you had defects, and a lot of people link that to even demons, demonic things. Oh well, this demon took away their eyes because they were, their parents were lustful or something of that
Hmm.
nature. Uh, and I kind of agree with a lot of his assessments when it comes to you needed a devout God or entity to do certain things if you were lacking in certain things. The famous quote, I was blind, but now I see. Um, you know, a lot of times then, you had to call upon whatever God, in the Greek philosophy,
Hmm.
and they would give you a vision or they would give you something to help or aid you in your disabledness. But each God had a different purpose depending on what your ailment was then. So, uh, yeah, it's a real deep learning curve when it comes to Greek philosophy and things of that nature. Um, as we know, the Greeks did translate the New Testament, so they kind of have a long-standing history on different philosophies. Matter of fact, I think I was reading on. God, I'm not good with names. The first civilization of man back then. I was reading up on passage in there that were talking about a demon that wasn't necessarily a bad demon. It was a good demon that will protect people from the bad demon. There was a lady that there was a folk tale back then that if you did something bad, you lost your child. But if you did something good, the demon would protect you and you get to keep your baby or something like that. Definitely want to elaborate on that next on another episode. Um, as far as that. But yeah, as far as simulation goes, I'm a true believer that we are in a system, some kind of system. Whether you want to say, it's man-made control, God controlled, I do believe we're in a system where we do certain things based off of certain things that come in our lives. Because I'm going XYZ, I'm going to go ZYX because now I'm kind of either forced to do this or this path led me to, this cause and this effect, and sometimes we can kind of control our own destiny, but, that comes with knowledge.
It does. And the path that I go, I go a path very specific letters in the alphabet. I go AARON. That's my path.
There you go.
I love joking around like that to bring a very serious and very animated conversation to a close. Whew!
There you go.
It might be my imagination, but I think we just died. I think that was a full meal. I gotta recover from this. All right, I'm gonna take one more statement, one more closing argument from Eden, and then we're gonna do a thing what I like to do at the end, where I'm gonna say, Dustin, you can ask me one question, and then closing arguments, and then we'll wrap it up from there. Eden the Wise, closing arguments for today. Go ahead.
Uh, I like this I like this purpose episode, and I always refer back to the Matrix as a go-to on a philosophy on purpose versus other things. If you look at the movie, it's very philosophical, very religious, philosophical. We definitely gonna have to break down the movie one of these episodes, but what it teaches is it's two of the same coin in the same universe, but people see it differently. The blue pill sees it as heads, and the red pill sees it as tails. But there's always a purpose, and whenever you lose that purpose, whenever you say there's no purpose for me anymore, you lose that purpose. You die. You lose your life. But the purpose is either negative or positive, depending on your perception or reality. It really depends on how you look at things. People can look at a war and say this was necessary. People can look at that same exact war and say that was unnecessary. It's all about your perception in life when it comes to what you perceive as good versus evil. The guy who taught me everything never believed in one or the other. He said the good and evil is nothing but perception. It's how you look at things. We refer to Job. He referred to Job as that example. God didn't shame Satan and destroy him when he went to him and said, "Hey, I'm here to destroy your people." No, he suggested Job. He didn't just waft him away and say, "Hey, that's wrong." He said, "No. While you're doing that, here's my good and faithful servant. Test him. I want to see what he's going to do." And so, we look at certain perceptions in life and say, "Wow, he has both sides of things. He's an omnipotent. He's beyond our thinking." So, to classify right and wrong is perception. Saying what is right, what is wrong. I helped this lady across the street. You did a good thing. You did a good deed. But what if that lady was a serial killer that was about to die, and you helped her across the street, and she goes and shoots up, in elementary school? You're like, "Oh crap! Did I do something good, or did I do something bad?" That's just a silly example, but for me, it's all about perception. Is a rainy day a beautiful day, or is a sunny day a beautiful day? That's up for you to decide on your perception. Give it to,
Okay, Dustin. One, beautiful as always, Eden. Dustin, what you can ask me only one more question, and then your closing argument. Go.
Okay. So what made you choose this topic out of the bazillion topics we can discuss?
Are you asking why I chose it?
Yeah, because to me, I'd never thought about this topic until
Well, funny you mentioned it, because I was watching some other philosophical videos, and like I said, I think everything happens for a reason. You coming to this podcast, I didn't realize you even had the background that you had until you just came up here and showed me that you had it. So the reason why I chose it is because I think I was supposed to pull you into this podcast. This is too weird, and you're too good for this to be some sort of accident. So I think that's the purpose of this, is that I wanted to talk about purpose, inadvertently discovering that we'd expand our product and expand our conversation to a third person that is giving me a lot more, even more inspiration. That's why. Closing arguments from you. Any kind of one more sentence, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Go, Dustin.
Yeah. So this topic needs to be talked about more in our community, because I answer a lot of blind vision impaired people's questions on Facebook and stuff. A lot of them have lost hope, like, "Hey, I'm blind and vision impaired. I'm just moving to the state. Is there any friend groups that I can join?" And the issue is, this person asked this question 2 days ago, and no one has responded. You know what I mean? And then to me, we need, and then that person's probably depressed in the first place. That's why they're reaching out and say, "Hey, is there anyone I could be friends with?" You know what I mean? Because I'm sorry to say, I'm one of those. My mom and dad are nurses, and when when this person reaches out and say, "Hey, I need friends," it tells you that they're in crisis mode.
Yeah.
And the issue is because most people, they don't go online and say, "Oh, I need friends," when they're doing okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just we need to have more discussions like this, and Aaron likes doing these discussions, so I just piggyback off him because he does all the hard work. And then
actually no, I don't do the hard work. Eden does this. By the way, this series here on Aaron's Opinion, actually, interestingly, not my idea. Eden's. Thank you, Eden. Just have to give his idea, actually.
And then we just need to have more conversations like this, because even here in Minnesota, where we have a low blind and visually impaired community, because we're a newer state, we have some people don't even know our state exists.
Yeah.
It's a lot of blind people, visually impaired people get depressed because Minnesota, if you want to live in town, it's very expensive. Not compared like New York and San Francisco, but a lot of blind vision impaired people, they can't live in town where other blind vision impaired people live because it's expensive. So a lot of them, they live on a farm by themselves in Fairmont. Some of them lives on a farm by themselves in Duluth because their husband can see and they can't, and they have no interaction with other blind people but the Facebook group. You know what I mean? And they don't know how it is to be blind. They don't know the blind culture. They don't know about, yes, we do have a blind culture here in Minnesota. I'm not so deep into it because I have some vision, so I don't 100% fit in the blind culture. But if you're completely blind, the blind Minnesota community has their own culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this podcast is helping, if people actually take the time to listen to it, it's actually going to help them feel like there's community out there. Like, hey, they're questioning life just like me. Sitting out here on my husband's farm or my wife's farm, just gone blind, and I don't know what to do with myself or what's life's about. Why did God make me blind when my husband, my kids are not blind and they can still live their everyday life out here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
It's funny you said that because we did, in our last episode or the one before that, I said, there could be somebody that has no idea that they're going to go blind. And we have to be the forefronters to show them this is not the end. You losing your sight is not the end of the world. There is a life past blindness, you know what I'm saying? And we have to make sure we are educating. We are there for them. We're showing support. We're saying, look, here we are, look at me. I'm blind too, but guess what? I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it can be you too. It doesn't, in a perfect world, especially on this, I would love to get a representative of each religion here. Even an atheist.
We're gonna do with Dustin now. With Dustin on our team, we're gonna do it. I've decided we're doing this.
Okay, I'm gonna look up the Hindu temple of Maple Grove to see if Aaron can reach out to them, because Aaron's better at that than me, and see if we can have like a Hindu priest come on the call.
Well, you brought it up. You reach out to them. Why do I have to do that? You brought it up. I didn't know that place.
You're the professional.
Well, so are you. Well, you're the philosopher. You're the Greek philosopher.
I look at his shows and I'm like, where's this guy from? He's like meets everybody from everywhere. So I'm just like, yeah, Aaron's definitely the best guy for the job. He has met people from around the world. I
appreciate it, guys.
Oh, my stepdad's from Kenya. That's I kind of get it.
So episode 4, we'll cover Greece. We'll cover Kenya. We'll cover Minnesota. We'll cover Dustin. Okay, you're getting covered next time, man. You're getting a direct hit next time. So Dustin, do your philosophy homework because you're going to sweat next time. Okay, whenever we decide to read whenever we decide to tape episode 4, you're going to sweat. All right. He's Eden the Wise from my perspective here from my studio. Down there, down under, he's Eden the Wise. Up here on our left, that's Greek philosopher. I didn't know he was one, but I know he is one. Dustin Lindberg. And right here, Aaron's opinion. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Don't forget long form interviews on Thursday. Don't forget about those. And PAR, philosophy and religion. I like that. Sundays also at 12 o'clock. When this episode is aired, it will be the 9th of July. I wish you, because I'm sitting here on the 1st of July recording this right now, I wish you all to have a very safe and very happy and very simulated 4th of July, because we're probably living in a simulation. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Let's end the recording right there. Dustin, how do I end a podcast episode? What do I say? I know you know it, man.
Okay. It said, will you help one person today? You help 1 million tomorrow.
You got it. Help one person today, 1 million tomorrow. All right, and of course on the YouTube side of it, like it if you like it, comment below. I can see those keyboards flying. This was way more of a privilege and way more exciting than I ever thought it would be to bring them on. When Dustin said, "Hey, let me in," that was the right message to send, because I'm forever grateful, as I always was. Dustin, I always knew you loved to send messages on Facebook and love to reach out, but Dustin, man, we need you in the community. You're a gift in the community. Like it if you like it, as I like to say. Share the video with someone else who wants to see this and wants to learn about the matrix that we're all trapped in. Ladies and gentlemen, surviving one day at a time. Hold on, everybody. We'll be back. We'll be back next Thursday, as I like to say. We'll be back next Thursday for another long-form interview. We'll be back next Sunday for Par, Philosophy, and Religion. I like that. He's Eden the Wise. I'm Aaron. He's Dustin Lindberg. I'm Aaron's Opinion. Share the video, like it, subscribe it, comment below. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you guys later in a few minutes, in about a couple hours. Thanks so much, everybody. Okay, I gotta go eat a snack and go think about the Matrix that I'm trapped in.
Yeah, I got dinner going. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to
All
hang
right,
out with my dad tonight. So
Okay, well, sounds good, guys. We'll catch up. We'll catch up in about an hour on our various platforms. We got to get both of you on WhatsApp, by the way. That's the only way it's going to work. We'll cover that later. Thanks so much, everybody.
yeah, I do have a WhatsApp, so you should be able to find me.
Okay, well, good. Start using it. Thanks so much, everybody. Okay, thanks so much. Help one person today. Help one